What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another photography Photoshop tips and tricks episode. And today we have a question from Marcus Lee. He says, Sean, can you show us the best method to remove hair from a face? Then he put in parentheses, annoying hair. I know exactly what he means. This is a very common problem, especially with photo retouching, portrait retouching, more importantly. It's something that I actually do almost every day. You're always going to have that frizzy hair that's going to get in your way, whether it was windy at the time, whether your hair is just normally all over the place. It depends on the situation. Every time you take that shot, it's not always going to be perfect, and hair, especially, can be in places that you didn't normally see when you took the shot. So you get home, you put your photos on the computer, and you have a mess. Now, this isn't an extremely bad situation, but for the length of this tutorial, I picked something that was semi as a good example. So let's talk about that. Of course, you see my photo retouching on here, and you see my portrait retouching, and my all that. This is similar, but it's a good question because I actually do this a little bit differently than everything else. I kind of do the hair separate, and I do it last. I have a little bit of a method here that seems to work for me. Again, there's always more than one way to do something in Photoshop, and in this instance, there's many ways to do this. I'm going to show you what works for me. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for you, but I think this might put you in the right direction, and then you can actually take it from there and put your own spin on it. But here's what I like to do. I like to actually do Command-Control-J and make a duplicate of the layer. You're going to be seeing, one thing with this method is that there's going to be a lot of layers, and I'm going to explain to you why. What I like to do is, I like to put all the tweaks on separate layers. Not so much so if you mess up, but well, also that will help, but also so you have more control of the opacity. I do a little bit of a layering opacity kind of effect to this, and I'm going to explain it to you right now. So we have the first layer, okay? And what I like to use is, I like to use the spot healing brush, but what I've noticed with the spot healing brush, you're normally going to be using two tools for this. You're going to be using the clone stamp tool and the spot healing brush. Those are going to be your most, no matter what you do with editing, your most retouching tools. You have all the other ones, and the regular healing brush, and you have the patch tool. But these two I find to be the most accurate, especially with content aware and all that. And what I like to do is I like to explain to people that you have to be careful with these tools. If I just come over here and do a big brush and one long stroke without taking my time and just try to get running gun it, as I like to call it, you're going to get funky results because you're not taking your time to tweak it and select certain things. Now look at this. Look at what we got. Each time you do this, you're going to get a different result. So the best thing to do when you're working with these tools, especially the spot healing brush, you want to make the brush small, and you want to take your time and do it in strokes. Don't do one long brush stroke. You're going to get a lot of crazy things. So what I like to do is I like to start dabbing, I call it. Touching and dabbing. Look at this. You do these tiny little strokes. It's going to take longer, but the results are going to be fantastic. They're going to be a lot better than doing one long fast stroke. You're going to have to take your time with this. Of course, you can always go back in and touch things up, but I'm going to show you my little method here. Okay? And then what I like to do is I like to go to the next layer. You'll see why in a minute. I'm going to go to another layer. I'm going to do a little bit more brushing. This gives me a lot of control, and I don't have to worry about mistakes. And I'm going to show you what I do with the opacity. So I like to just go in here. I would actually take a lot more of my time here. Now see, I just found this hair here. So I could do this, get rid of this. See that? All this excess hair here. You know, you want to touch up the face wherever you see it the most. Okay. Touch up whatever else along the way. You can come back in here and do your little dabs. And then, of course, what I like to do is, you're going to see we're going to touch all this up in a minute. Don't worry. You're going to get a lot of funky things, of course. It's just part of it. But A lot better than if you was to use long brush strokes. Now, what I like to do is go back to my layers, and if you notice, everything's on a separate layer, and you can also mess with the opacity. You want to also make this look realistic, so you might want to drop the opacity a little. Okay? Go to the next one, same thing. Maybe drop the opacity a little. See that? It's more realistic. Watch before and after. See? So I have more control over all my brush strokes, and it could be endless at how many layers you want to do. Now what I like to do is I like to make another layer, and now we're going to start working with some clone stamp. Again, get an area that's a decent area, that's a nice clean area, and start brushing. Start fixing up some of these spots here, these funky spots that are dark. Now, what you're going to notice is, of course, it looks fake because of the different color contrasts and the different tones. That's why having it on its own layer with the opacity, I find, makes it a lot better because you can tone down these brushes to make it look a lot more realistic. Okay? I'm going to fix all that up there. Now look how much better this looks. You know, and of course, you would take your time and you would try to really mix in the skin tones to make this look a lot more realistic. But look already what I'm doing, how much better this looks. Okay? Now what you're going to find is that it's going to look fake. It's going to look like somebody actually got a razor and did a perfect trim of your outline of your hair. In real life, that's not going to happen. So what I like to do is I like to bring back a little bit of the hair just for realistic purposes and shadows, which is why we put it on its own layer. Not only that, I could tone this down a little bit. See that? So it's not as fake. See? Before, after. And then what I like to do is, again, another layer. But now watch this. I like to take my spot healing brush, decent sized brush, and watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to go big strokes here. Not huge strokes, but decent size. Alright, we got a little bit too carried away there. Don't worry, we can all fix that up. I'm going to show you why I'm doing this for a minute. Okay? And then what we're going to do is we're going to go back. We're going to touch all that up. A little bit too much there, but that's okay. Everything can be fixed. And what I'm going to show you is why I did that before with this big brushes with the spot healing brush. I'm doing that to give it a little bit of a shadow and a realistic effect because I'm going to go into that layer and I'm going to tone down the opacity. This is really just a matter of, as best as I could describe it, this is really just a matter of coming in here like I'm doing and just endlessly retouching, just trying things that work, messing with things. It's very hard to get it perfect. I mean, you know, I wouldn't advise you doing this on somebody that's, you know, wants a printout or when you first try this or a family member or somebody that's going to, you know, be like, hey, what the heck did you do to me? You want to practice for a while. You want to definitely practice this stuff. This is going to take time, and it's really just a matter of tweaking and messing with stuff, really. Okay, come back in here with the brush here, fix that up a little bit. Again, we're almost being like barbers here, you know. We're kind of, but you notice what I did with the paintbrush and the spot healing is I made uneven curves to make it look a little bit more realistic. Because it wouldn't look that cut and flat. So you want to correct the hair problem, but you also want to make it look realistic. Now look at this. Now watch. Before and after. Kind of gives it that nice drop shadowy feathered effect. So we're going to take all the layers off. Okay, that's what we started out with. Let's zoom in here. Okay. Center this. That's what we started out with. Now watch. Here's our first edit. Here's our second edit. Here's our third edit. Here's our fourth edit. We're going to zoom back out. Very nice. As you can see, there's subtle changes because we did them in steps. But by doing that, we were able to really tone down our edits and make it look realistic instead of just running and gunning it and making it look fake and overdoing it, so to speak. And you still have the curvature of her face. It doesn't look like a clean even cut with a razor. You know, it's realistic. It's got the curvature of the contour of her hair, and we removed all the excess hair, and we lightened the opacity down a little bit and made that pop out. Again, I'll take all these off. That's what we started with. And then we gradually started to add our edits in. And there we go. And you know what it is, guys? There's no really wrong or right way to do this. You know, you may look at me and say, oh, you're crazy. I do it this way. That's fine. What works for you, you know? And how much time do you want to spend with a certain task? It all depends on you, your workflow, and what works for you. But I find this to be pretty accurate and pretty realistic because we are, you know, going for realism. We don't want it to look fake. And it looks nice and it works. Okay? Try that out, guys. Let me know what you think. Again, Marcus Lee, thank you for the question. It was a great question. And I will talk to you again soon. Take care, everyone.